There are concerns in some quarters about the stability of the Government of National Unity. This stems from the open discord among some of its members around the signing into legislation of certain bills, which include the National Health Insurance and more recently the Expropriation Bill. Given these signs, from a market perspective, what would the collapse of the Government of National Unity ultimately mean? Well, to discuss some of the issues, I'm joined by Harry Scherzer. He's the CEO of Future Forex. Thank you so much, Harry, for joining us. So there's been a lot of positive energy around South Africa's economic outlook since the formation of the GNU, which has resulted in discernible improvements in terms of business confidence, the rand exchange rate, except maybe not so much now. But now the political situation is looking a little tense, even though DA leader John Steenhuisen says that the DA remains committed to the GNU. What's your sense?
Firstly, Nompumelelo, thank you so much for having me on. Great to chat about this. My sense is that everything will come right. Whether that's my optimism or whether it's underlying what is actually going to happen, time will tell. Obviously, everyone's meeting tonight to see if this can be ironed out. But I think it was a really good sign that the DA came out and said, look, we are committed to the GNU. We want this to work. And so I suspect that everything will be okay. But if it's not, and if the DA leave the GNU, I do see a weakening of the rand and obviously some government instability, which will proceed from there.
Yeah, so you're getting ahead of yourself. So if the GNU does collapse and there's a political fragmentation, what are the scenarios that you foresee? And importantly, how will the country be perceived by investors, both local and foreign? And what might be the resultant actions? And this, of course, depends on the scenarios that you outline.
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying that I think this is a low probability event. I don't see anyone walking away. I think we are strong enough as South Africans to realize that we're better together than separate. But as you mentioned, it's not impossible that the two parties can't come to an agreement and the DA ends up walking away. If that does happen, the first thing I'll say is that for foreign investors and local investors alike, it will result in a sell-off of the rand is what I suspect will happen, because suddenly there's a lot of instability. There's actually two reasons. The first is that any uncertainty is not a good thing for South Africa. Uncertainty in South Africa leads to a sell-off of the rand. But secondly, the market historically have liked the DA and liked their policies. And with them walking away, suddenly the market becomes less excited as in South Africa as an investment prospect. So for a couple of reasons, I foresee a sell-off of the rand and as a result, a weakening of the rand against the dollar should any party walk away. From there, what will happen? Well, the ANC will have to find some form of coalition or work something into fruition. But what that is anyone's guess. Again, this goes through to the uncertainty element. The market will be uncertain, and uncertainty is something that the market doesn't appreciate in general.
So I want to translate the issue of the market, because, you know, when I'm among people in my community, you know, they say, oh, people always think about the market, you know, how does that relate to me? Everybody cares about the markets, but not about us, right? So what would be the practical consequences if the rand were to plummet substantially more than where it is now relative to major currencies? And I suppose that would be, this is the why should I care question.
Yeah, the why should I care question is that we all get poorer on a global scale should the rands plummet. Let's look from a practical standpoint. Let's say that you want to travel to America or travel to Europe, but the rand has plummeted. Suddenly, the coffee that you buy, the places that you stay, suddenly become more expensive because they're not priced in rands. They're priced in euros, in dollars, in anything else. And the weaker the rand gets against those currencies, the less money you have and the more it costs you in rand terms. On a more sort of theoretical level, the price of goods will also go up because there's a lot of importing happening. So if our retailers are importing any of their produce, that produce has to go up in price and someone has to cover it. And ultimately, it'll be the end consumer that covers it. So whether you're directly traveling or whether you're an importer or whether you're just a consumer, it's not good news. It means the increase in prices, and it's something that we want to avoid for all South Africans.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, it's the importation of inflation, and inflation goes up, and then the Reserve Bank does things that we don't like, and so on and so forth.
Exactly right. So we're lucky enough that the cabinet meeting tomorrow should result in a decrease in interest rates of 25 bips. So we should actually see the interest rates decreasing, which means our inflation is currently under control. But you're 100% right. If this were to happen, suddenly inflation gets out of control. And if anything, a rise of interest rates is required. And again, bad for economic activity, bad for the consumer, the person who has a credit card debt, the person who has a car debt, a house debt, whatever it is. We don't want interest rates going up. So basically, if we can keep international investors and local investors happy with the rand, a bunch of things happen as a follow-on effect, which makes everyone happier. And that should answer the why should I care question.
Thank you so much, Harry, for your time and your insights there. That was Harry Scherzer. He's the CEO at Future Forex.